Welcome. Today we continue talking about taxes, and today we focus on another important tool, which is the SIPP. And so, as we said before, the SIPP, a self-invested pension plan, has the characteristics of being a pre-tax account, which means that your contributions will reduce today your taxable income, but you have some limitations on your withdrawals. So let's focus on this in depth today. And the first thing that we want to understand is what is the difference between the SIPP and the workplace pension. Both of these are pre-tax accounts, but they hold also many differences. So let's start looking into them. The overall idea is that the workplace pension is something that is given to you by the employer, while the SIPP, self-invested, it's something that you need to activate yourself. And so, with the SIPP, you can contribute freely up to the limited allowance. You can see in the notes of the video what is the current one. Well, the workplace pension, it automatically starts when you are working for a private company. However, it's not something like always fixed. It's not something with the same characteristics every time. A lot of the differentiations depend on your employer. But overall, you know that this workplace pension starts when you work for a private company. Then, with the SIPP, you pick the broker, meaning the platform to use to invest, and this also affects the investments you can do, while the provider is decided by your company. Your company, your employer, has an agreement with some pension provider to automatically enroll any new employer and any new employee there. SIPP, you can avoid fees and you can invest in most products. While the workplace pension, even though we can help you to optimize a bit and avoid certain taxes that doesn't make sense for you to pay, usually it has a higher fees and a limited choice of investments. So the overall idea is that while the former, the SIPP, you can do whatever you want, exactly as you set up an ISA. For the workplace pension, a bit more difficult. We can optimize it. We can avoid that you take the worst funds. But if there are 8 funds available, that's what we can choose. We cannot do anything else. Okay? And with the SIPP, you get the tax relief, which is the bonus that, or rather the bonus, the fact that you are paying less taxes on your taxable income because you removed some investments from there. Some income from there. Well, with the workplace pension, yes, you are paying less taxes, and also your employer usually gives you some kind of contributions. Again, this depends on your agreement with the employer, which is not something you decide, but it's something that they give you as granted. This also means, and it's something that your coach will ask as well, you want to have all the details on this agreement with the workplace pension if you have one, so that we understand how to optimize it, and also how much we should prioritize the SIPP over it. Then, things that are in common between these two types of accounts. The tax relief is based on the contributions and based on your income tax rate, which you will pay when you withdraw. So basically, you pay less taxes today. Let's say that you have a tax rate of 40%. Now you pay basically 40% less taxes on the money that you contributed either into the SIPP or into the workplace pension. And then these taxes will be paid the moment in which you start withdrawing from these pensions accounts. What is the advantage of doing this? Are you just postponing taxes? No, because the taxes that you pay depend on the income tax rate on the moment in which you withdraw. And so if you are withdrawing this money when you are retired, your income is much lower, and therefore also the taxes you will pay. So maybe today you have a 40%, maybe today you save 40% in taxes because your income is at this level. Then when you are retired, your income is at this level. And so when you withdraw, you pay the taxes you owe, but maybe just 15% instead of 40. That's the advantage. Overall, the reason why you want to invest through these two accounts is also because the growth is capital gain tax-free. So we're not talking about the income tax that we are just postponing. The capital gain tax, meaning what you would pay on the additional income that you make through your investments, is 0. So that makes it much more convenient and basically similar to what the stock and shares ISA does. The stock and shares ISA does just this, while these accounts also help you reduce your taxes, but they are limited in when you can withdraw. But when you withdraw, you'll be able to withdraw up to 25% of your total pot, also income tax free. 25% right now. If this changes, you'll see it in the notes of this video. But overall, the idea is what we just said here, that you need to postpone the taxes and you'll pay them later. Yes, but only for 75%. The first 25 is even tax-free, income-free. So it becomes even more convenient. Then, let me move this. You're supposed to withdraw the money when you're 55 years old, changing to 57 in 2028. You can withdraw early with penalty fees, which is not recommended. So here is the disadvantage of these accounts. Yes, you don't have capital gains. Yes, with the SIPP, you can invest in whatever you want. And yes, both of these are capital gain tax-free. But here is the catch. You need to wait. You need to, you can use this money only when you are 55, 57 from 2028. And again, if there's updates, check the notes. So this is why we usually say that the stock and shares ISA is more of a priority if you are quite young. If you are over 40, probably you can just prioritize the SIPP, because if there wasn't this limitation of withdrawal, the SIPP is 10 times better than the ISA, because you don't have any drawback. The fact that you have this limitation is where they become, more of a consideration to make which one to use first. But if you're over 40, meaning you're probably just 15, 17 years before you can withdraw the money, probably the SIPP is fine. 45, 50 doesn't make sense. If you can invest in both SIPP and ISA, great. But if you need to prioritize one, the older you are, the better the SIPP will be. Then what else? You have an annual allowance, which is currently, so again, this may change, you can check the notes, the amount of your salary or £60,000, whichever is lower. So obviously, if you earn £50,000, you cannot invest £60,000 in the SIPP. But if you earn £100,000, you can invest up to £60,000 tax pre-tax. So what would it mean in practice? It would mean that, let's say that you earn £100,000. If you invest £60,000 into the SIPP, the government sees it as if you are earning £40,000, and it will make you pay taxes on £40,000 instead of £100,000. The £60,000 are pre-tax in the SIPP. You invest them as you want, but obviously you have less money to live, so you need to find the right balance. If you have an income above £200,000 a year, your annual allowance will gradually reduce from £60,000 to £10,000 per year. So again, in these type of scenarios, chat with your coach. He will give you a bit more context on what to do when this happens. So, having said this, we discussed about the stock and shares ISA, we discussed about different type of ISAs, we discussed about the SIPP, and we also said that the GIA, it's simply the normal account, the default account that you use to invest. This is what you are supposed to do. First of all, you max out the annual threshold to grow your investment tax-free without withdrawal limitation through the stock and shares ISA. Next, you want to focus on the SIPP. You reduce your taxable income and grow your investments tax-free. And your withdrawal will be limited until 55 or whatever the age will be. If you still have money after this, which for reference, as things are now, it means that you're investing 20,000 every year in the ISA and 60,000 into the SIPP every year. So you should be very rich to invest more than £80,000, but you still have money left, then you go with the GIA. So here, it's just normal default account in which you pay taxes as normal. Again, this should give you the picture of how difficult it is to pay capital gain taxes in the UK if you do things properly, because you have £80,000 to invest every year between these two and you'll never pay a cent of capital gains, which is awesome, So a couple of exceptions. First of all, before all of this, you want to prioritize your workplace pension up to the employer contribution if you have it. So this is an exception because obviously this doesn't apply to you if you don't have any employer contribution, which means that your employer, as written here, it gives you, where is it? The employer contribution. If you have employer contribution, you want to take advantage of those because it's basically free money even before you invest in the ISA, okay? So that's the first thing. But the moment in which you achieve the full employer contributions, so for example, let's say that you must invest 5% of your salary to get 5% employer contributions, you invest 5% of your salary and nothing else, okay? And everything else goes into the ISA, SIPP, or whatever. Never use the workplace pension after you get the free money from your employer, because then you have all the limitations that we said about not be able to choose the provider, not be able to get the investments, higher fees, so it doesn't make sense. The only reason to use the workplace pension is to take the free money. Number 2, use the lifetime ISA instead of only the stock and shares ISA if you plan to buy a house in the next 3 years. So here the exception is you're someone that plans to buy the house soon, then probably the lifetime ISA could help you a bit. But aside of that, no. First house, by the way. Number 3, is use the junior ISA before the SIPP, so at this stage, if you want to kickstart your child investing journey. The details on the junior ISA are in the ISA lecture, so feel free to do that. And as I said before, if you are 40, 45 years old or older, you may prefer to max out the SIPP before the stock and shares ISA, because technically this account is superior to this because of the taxes that you pay, the less taxes that you pay. And if you are old enough, this withdrawal limit doesn't really affect you much. So that's the overall strategy. What you want to get out of this is to understand, okay, cool, where am I? Do I have already the ISA? Is it with the right provider? Do I have the SIPP already? Do I need to open it? All these type of considerations, they make sense, and we will discuss about them when we decide how to open the broker. But start to note down how far you are from this ideal situation. And obviously, if there's any other exception that is not included here, please mention it to your coach and they will help you. Okay, so a few more topics here. Tax relief. So, it's not, as we said before, yes, you get the tax relief with these pre-tax accounts, but it's not a given that they just give it to you without doing anything. As you know, the stock and shares ISA is automated, right? You don't need to say to the government, hey, I'm not paying capital gain taxes. They already know. Here is slightly different because, as you can see, certain pension schemes offer a relief at source. Relief at source means your contributions are taken from your salary, so they are taken after you have been taxed, and then your pension provider goes to HMRC to claim back the basic tax rate. Which means that the pension provider just thinks, oh yeah, you need to pay less taxes based on the basic tax rate, but if you are a high income earner, your tax relief should be higher, and the pension provider doesn't know this, or they just don't care. And so, given that the pension provider does not claim anything above the basic tax rate, you need to write to HMRC yourself or do a self-assessment tax claim, including it there. And then the money arrives as a tax refund. So if you are earning over 50,000, this already pays off the program because you are going to save a lot much more money. By the way, if you don't know how to write to the HMRC, ask your coach. We have templates to help you with, so we know how to do it. List of pension schemes that operate relief at source is not exhaustive, but if you find yourself in any of these, watch out because you are in this situation. So any SIPP account, Nest, People's Pension, True Potential, Standard Life, Aviva, these are all providers that don't do the right claiming, and so you need to do it yourself. So again, if you are earning less than this, don't worry about this page. No, nothing for you to do. If you're earning over this, mention it to your coach and we will help you. Finally, other situation. If you earn more than 100,000, first of all, congratulations. You are in a very small percentage of people. You want to pay attention to not fall into the 60% tax trap. What is this? It's something that says that if you're earning over 100,000, the personal allowance, which is basically the tax-free zone that everybody has, is taken away. This means that if you're earning between these, you are paying an effective tax rate of 60% because you are paying taxes also on the first £12,000, which normally you wouldn't pay taxes. So what do we do? Well, 3 things. You can increase your pension contributions. As you know, you can put £60,000, up to £60,000 into the SIPP and also the workplace pension. So if you just reduce your taxable income enough, let's say that I'm earning £130,000. If I invest £40,000 between the SIPP and the workplace pension, now my taxable income is £90,000, and so I'm below this threshold and I'm not risking this anymore. Then, if you have the possibility, if you are able to avoid a pay raise and instead take non-cash employee benefits like company car, private health insurance, this will help you to reduce your taxable income again. Finally, you can always donate to charity, and by claiming the gift aid tax relief, it will bring you down again lower than this amount. Obviously, these things apply if you are in a 130,000, 160,000 income. If you are at a 250,000 income per year, it's very difficult that you are able to go below 100,000 taxable. So you just need to bear with it. But if you're in that scenario from 100,000 to 160,000 income, there are ways for you to avoid this. Okay, so I think that's everything you need to know about pensions. So as I said, it's very important that you're clear on what you have right now in terms of ideal strategy. So where you are compared to this, if you see yourself in the exceptions, if there's anything else that we should know. But overall, try to start thinking, okay, what do I miss? What else can I already prepare? You don't need to do it right now. I suggest you to have the coaching call first, but start writing down some things and see how far you are from here, because that's the approach that we want to build with you, and then as coaches, we will help you set up. So that's pretty much it. I'll see you next time. Be stoic.